Jane, tell me when.
I'm good.
No, Jane,
Oh,
Ron?
Right?
Ron, sorry,
Oh, Ron.
I'm recording the,
Yeah, you're good.
all right. I'll call the meeting to order. And, oh, I didn't even look at minutes. Do we have the minutes from last week?
yeah,
You do. They
yes.
was sent to you. Yeah.
I know, and I just meant to open up that email. It's probably the same email that had the agenda on it, right?
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Leslie? Yep.
Yep, that was all sent with the agenda.
That was like in the beginning of the week.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're on top of it, girl. You were?
Finally getting caught up.
It's a good feeling when you get all caught up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yep, I have them. Were there any changes? Jane or Tammy?
I had a couple.
Go ahead.
Line 38, the last word, it says pending on the zoning location. Can we just take that out of there? Because it should say depending on the zoning location, but I don't think that, I think we just take that out of there. Because it was just my comment that this would most likely have to go before the planning board and then put a period.
You got it.
Yep, that's good.
And on line 53, 54, under the note, it should say, like, any restaurant could submit a new application to the planning board if they wish to make any permanent changes.
Okay.
So it doesn't sound like they have to go to the planning board for this season's outside dining. Just insert the word permanent changes.
Got it.
And then one more on line 131. The word granted should say be granting.
Yes.
And that's all I had. I will make a motion to accept the January 25th, 2021 meeting minutes as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Now I'm gonna go back to my agenda. All right. I guess we can go right into the town manager's report.
Yep.
Oh,
and
actually,
it-
Ray Corber's here, right?
Right, and the first one on my thing is the latest, we sent you the, or forwarded Ray's, email with the latest, the application for grant funding and a report. I brought Ray on tonight. What I'd like to do is have you discuss that, and with Ray here, we ask any questions that you might have. If that all looks good, I'm prepared, obviously prepared to put something in motion. So,
All right. Ray, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody.
Ray.
So we've been working with Novus to prepare the Brownfields grant application. If you recall from our previous conversation, we had a discussion about moving forward with the site assessment work. And essentially, there's a couple of tracks you can take on that. Number one is to move forward, try to get Brownfield grant funding for the project. And that funding would, there's no guarantee, but it would not only include site assessment, funding for the site assessment, but also potentially for construction of some of the park amenities, as far as the, because at the end of the day, you're either going to remove or you're going to isolate the materials, any waste materials on site. So that could involve obviously constructing a parking lot or doing some of the other amenities and getting that funded, as well as the site assessment work. So we have prepared a grant application. That grant application is ready to go into the EPA pending your approval. Just need to basically send it in. And then that starts the clock for their review. Novus has already contacted the EPA and talked to their project officer at the EPA about that this project was potentially forthcoming. Interestingly enough, EPA is really focused in on mill cleanups in New England. So this would rank pretty high, we suspect, for actually obtaining some grant funding. So the sooner we get it in, the sooner we can get the wheels turning on that. And then ultimately, hopefully get approval for the grant funding on the site assessment work. So the other thing we asked Novus to do is put, and this is the second track, put a scope and just a draft scope, outline scope, and a fee together should you choose not to go for the brownfields funding. So the scope is different. And the fee obviously is going to be different since the scope is different, simply because if we're going for the brownfields grant funding, the federal government has more stringent requirements when it comes to project planning, QA/QC procedures, that sort of thing. So you're kind of locked into their framework. So the scope and the estimated fee or the budget for moving forward with the site assessment work under a brownfield grant funding scenario is $73,000. I think it was $73,500. And the budget number that Novus would recommend going forward, if the town wanted to move forward simply on your own without the brownfield grant funding, is on the order of, I think it was $44,000 to $50,000.
45 to 55.
45 to 55. Thank you. Yep. So, so we wanted you to, basically, we thought it might be helpful for you to see the difference in the scope, difference in the fee, depending upon which track you ultimately decide to move forward with. The other thing we've had conversations with DES, with which is approval. We forwarded the environmental report that was prepared by Novus, and based on our conversations with DES, specifically with Paul Rydell in the Waste Management Division, he would like to confer with some of his colleagues in-house there at DES before sitting down and having a scoping session. So they want to have an opportunity to review the report, talk about it internally a little bit. We're hopeful that we can have that conversation sometime this week, so that we can more clearly identify what the scope would be for the site assessment work. So the fee and the outline scope that is in front of you tonight is pending that conversation with DES. So they're gonna definitely weigh in and want to have a say as to what's ultimately completed for site assessment work. So, but we wanted to give you as much information as we possibly could at this point, so you can make whatever decision and just kind of keep you up to speed with how we're progressing. And with that, I'll turn it over any questions.
Go ahead, Tammy.
No, the 45 to 55, if we were to do it on our own, is more than I was hoping it would be if we did it on our own. So I think we don't have a choice but to go for a brownfield grant. But I'm glad we now have the number. It's reassuring to know that there's a specific number and we're not guessing at what it might have been.
Right, and I just to kind of make sure you have everything in context, I asked Novus to give us a conservative number, kind of an upside number. So if you're going to proceed on your own, we can certainly work with you around a budget that might work. But keep in mind, the more investigation we do, the better the result we're ultimately going to have. You don't want to, you could do a $10,000 effort as long as DES approves it. And then wind up being under construction, and then you hit something because you did such a limited level of investigation. You don't want to be in that.
I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen.
That's going to be a change order. So that's why we wanted to kind of paint the full picture for you, and as broadly as we could and as detailed as we could.
I have a question, Ray.
Sure.
if it's one of the, all the questions aren't answered, or are they, according to what I read? It says if property owned by applicant, acquired by or acquisition by, and that's not filled in. I would think that'd be 1980.
Oh, you're looking, Jane, you're looking at the application itself?
Yes, yeah. I am. And it was at Franconia Paper Mill then. I think it went under the last year was 1978 or 1979. I think it was 79.
Yeah, that was a piece of information that we did not have. So if you have that information, we can put that in there. It's
Well,
not
only in my
critical.
head, so we probably want paperwork to say that it was transferred to the town. We must have something somewhere, just what the girls want to
You can-
hear.
If you decide to go that way on the brownfield, whichever way, we'll chase down. the-
Paperwork.
for the- Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like it. I think hopefully we can get this to clean the place up. And there's one misspelling at the very, the total estimated value of Brownsville assessment activities requested is, maybe I'm spelling it wrong, but it's REQUIUEST ED.
What page you on, Jane?
The very last page, page 3. No, it's page 3, not the last page. Page 3.
Okay.
Requested is,
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah, that is, that is.
spelled wrong. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
paragraph?
it's the very last sentence, the total estimated value of the Brownsfield assessment activities
Yeah,
requested.
that's a misspell, that's misspelled.
Yeah. And I know there was some cleanup, the Verney site. On page 1, it talks about, has there been any cleanup? So it looks good. Hopefully if we can get it. Is that going to be enough, do you think? The 73 to clean up the whole area?
No, that's just site assessment work. That's not to do any cleanup.
Oh, boy. Okay. Will they pay for any of the cleanup after that? The brown.
They potentially could pay for a good chunk of your cleanup. That's the advantage of going for the brownfields funding. You could actually get
good.
part of your park and,
Yeah.
constructed for, $0.
Yeah.
So it depends upon how this all plays out, and it depends upon the funding levels at the EPA.
Oh, good. Good. Thank you.
Ray, just another question. This type of a brownfields grant is this also open for private companies?
I believe so, yes. I believe it's open to private and public entities.
Okay, I thought it was, and I'm just wondering if, as a municipality, if there's any higher priority in both processing the applications and funding the applications, being a community rather than a private business, or doesn't it matter?
I'm not sure, and honestly, in any funding program, it depends upon all the other projects that they have coming into them. So in terms of priorities and available funding, that changes from year to year. So
Okay,
that's difficult to say.
okay,
I think it's encouraging when Ray told me that even at this time in history that paper mill cleanups are very high on, especially New England, are very high on EPA's list. That's nothing but good news for us. I mean, it really is, I think.
Good. It really is.
well, I agree that at this point, spending $45,000 to $55,000 of town funding to do a reduced assessment, and then at the end of that, we're kind of just at another dead end until we decide whether, are we paying for the cleanup, or do we apply for funds at that time? I guess I think that proceeding with this application is in the best way to go forward. And it might slow down the project. And I see Tara's online, and I would assume that we could keep the matching grant people informed as to the problems that we've run into with contamination, and that we are actively seeking to solve those issues. And see how it plays out.
I think what I would recommend, since we have July to update them on, if the 2-year extension would hold or whatever, that we wait and see what happens with the results, so we have more to report to them and say,
Yeah.
this is our plan, DES is on board with it, or, like just some definitive boxes to check to say. And at that point, we should be able to say whether or not we've received this, to either look into it more.
I
Hopefully.
agree.
Yep,
I
I agree. All right, anything else on this?
No, thank you though, Ray.
I'm
Just,
wondering, I'm wondering if we should take a formal vote on
Yes, please.
submitting this.
And
Is
that
that-
way, then the way I can proceed with the contract based on your vote tonight. So, right.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with submitting the Brownfield grant application.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Can I add to that so we can say it's specifically for the Riverfront Park?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Ray.
Ray, thanks very
Okay.
much.
All right, you're
Okay,
very
Ray.
welcome. All
Ray,
right,
if-
we'll
If you
chat
make,
tomorrow.
hey, if you make them change that change, a spelling change or anything else and get a fresh copy to me, I'll execute that tomorrow sometime.
Okay, sounds good. We'll
And
chat
maybe,
tomorrow.
maybe Butch, maybe someone, because we have access to the county records, we could just look up that deed
Yeah.
and see what was the date that was transferred to the town of Lincoln.
Yeah, we'll do some research on that tomorrow.
Okay,
All right. Okay,
Thank-
everyone.
thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ray.
All right, have a good evening.
You too.
All right,
Okay, my second thing is just a reminder, the public bond and budget hearing, this Thursday, February 4th at 5 PM. I think you're all aware of that.
Yep.
Okay, the third thing I have is, if you, well, I'll go right down my list. The town meeting, we talked with Robert today. I think Tammy's.
Bye, Tara. Thank you for joining.
Bye, you're welcome.
Okay, Tara.
bye, Tara, thank you.
We had a email conversation with Robert today. Apparently, the school board has discussed the whether or not to hold town meeting at the school. They're going to take a vote on February 10th, and Robert says there appears to be some dissension, and whether Tammy wants to elaborate on that, I don't know, but so it isn't a done deal. I guess that's where we are. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed, and Tammy want to chime in or not?
Yeah, the school board's not even sure if they want to hold the school meeting, the district meeting at the school. There's some on the board that are leaning towards doing it, doing a remote meeting, kind of like they did last year. However, it seems like they kind of want to postpone it 2 weeks at a time until the weather turns better, because I mean, some years we've had snow, and I think doing a parking lot drive-through vote in the snow is not good for the people that are standing out there handing out the ballots and such. So I think a few of them are leaning that way. And then some of us are also leaning towards having it at the school, just in a different way, doing, the regular ballot voting up at the elementary school maybe, and then doing the deliberative session that night in the high school gym. So you have social distancing. And there just wasn't a clear answer, and they wanted to give it another couple of weeks to see how the situation in town went, see if the cases start going down or if they're still climbing. And we did decide to not postpone the decision past the 10th, so that both the town and the school have time to advertise and let the voters know what they are going to do for those days. So they will make a definitive decision on the 10th, one way or the other. They were receptive when I said we could do the ballot voting during the day at town hall, and then just have the night session at school, and that, perked them up a little bit and said, well, that might be better. There is no school that day anyway. They have deliberately scheduled that as a teachers in service day off type thing. So there won't be students in the school that day anyway on
They do
town
that.
meeting day. So yeah, we won't know till the 10th.
Hmm.
What was that for?
Yeah,
I-
I'm doing it. What day is the town meeting for the school? I don't remember when they hold it, Tammy.
Tuesday after, I believe, March,
March 16th,
I believe so. I'm just looking. The 9th
it's
is,
9th.
the 9th is ours, the 16th is the school. Yep.
Okay.
It's supposed to snow the first 3 weeks in March, just as you, long ways out. I was reading the weather this morning.
Well, the way this year goes, it might snow the first 2 weeks of June. I don't know.
No. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say.
Do we have a plan B for the town if the school does not allow us the gym? Is there another large space that could be utilized? Yes, OJ's nodding his head.
What would you think about asking the Beacon, current owners of the Beacon, to use the tennis court facility that I don't think they're using at all?
Is it still usable? I heard that they were having like leaky roof problems and stuff, but
I don't know.
verify
Let's
that.
bring, Ron's been over there. I'm gonna, if he has enough knowledge to chime in here right now, but I know they had issues there, so.
Yeah, I think they resolved the heating issues. I know that they've been using it for storage for the renovations at Woodward's, and storing mattresses, all that stuff. But I can have a conversation with them if you want.
If you have a relationship with them, they know who you are.
Oh yeah,
It wouldn't hurt. Maybe we want to wait till after February 10th so that we don't ask them and they say yes, and then we say, okay, well, we don't really want it anyway.
Okay.
Never mind.
Let's wait till after the 10th, but let's have that in our back pocket to see if we can, that if we ask them the very next day on the 11th, that would be a 4-week notice. And if they have it filled up with construction and, room stuff, we won't be able to, but it's just an idea.
Okay. Yeah,
You know,
I'll follow your lead and let me know when you want me to talk to them.
Okay.
And I think what seems to be a lot of towns who don't have a place large enough are talking about is the 2-week at a time continuance, which the Board of Selectmen can do, or the moderator can do. You both have the power to do that, only 2 weeks at a time. It would get you to better weather if you had to do, a drive up or,
And isn't it you do postpone it 2 weeks at a time on the day of, correct?
I think you're given 24, you can get up 20, you got 24 hours before. You can do it as
Okay.
either 24 or 48. I think there's a time just before the scheduled day, so you got time to get it out. I think it's either 24, we can reread that, 24 or 48 hours by the guidance, the
It's
rules.
48.
I think
yeah.
it's 48 hours that you can't do it any sooner than that. You've got to right up against yeah.
And I know that that's an option, but one of the things that restricts though is was supposed to, if in doing that, was supposed to stick with the previous the new budget, but the previous whatever programs, which means that it would tie up Chad from hiring new people, Ron from hiring new people.
Right. We'd have to be operating on a default budget for
Which is
until there's times we hold it, which, to be honest, it is what it is.
Right.
Chad, him and we've decided, as you know, there wouldn't be anybody put on until July anyway. That's what we agreed with if they approve, if the budget committee approves. And I'm speaking for Ron, but that hire is flexible. We'll do whatever, it'll happen whenever the money's available. So, and that's really the two we have. Other than that, everybody sticks to last year's budget. I mean,
Right. It would also delay the water meters if that
bonding,
passes.
yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
My thought is if that passes, we would get bids and get that out
Yep.
start working on that like the next day.
Yeah,
Would be pushing that off 2 weeks at a time also. Everything else, though, you're right. I mean, the regular operating budgets and, there's nothing in the capital reserve that we're funding this year and need to spend that money in the first month
right.
that I know of. So
No.
we should be fine.
Well, I think the 10th is key. I think whatever the school board decides is gonna dictate to you folks where you're gonna have to
Right.
take action. Yeah,
I think we wait for them to decide and go from there.
All right. Okay, then let's move on.
We could put
Okay.
that for an agenda item on the 15th.
okay. I'm sure Jane just copied that down, so.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should have in front of you, I sent along the MOU for the Coalition Communities 2.0.
Yeah.
That's on the SWEPT, so that we can, I'd really like to be part of the towns that have a lobbyist tracking the legislation regarding, there are 2 active bills as we speak. One establishing a flat rate, $12 per thousand for every community in the state, which is a big change, and that's got a lot of donor communities shaking in their boots. And so there are several things that I think it's important. We can cover this out of legal. The fees, they haven't, depending on how many towns are in, right now, it's between 20 and 30. It looks like a pretty, but depending if the legislature, any legislature that tweaks that formula even a bit, we could have upwards of 70 communities that some of which would become donor towns overnight. So, or retaining SWEP. Okay, in other words, they wouldn't be able to retain their excess dollars. So I think it's important that we participate and be on the inside track so that the board, I can keep you guys and, obviously give me guidance, but where that legislation's headed. I think, because right now I think it's 200 and we're returning 260, $70,000 or on the hook to, if this doesn't change, that should have been able to, we keep an offset, apply to our tax rate. So that, or not keep, that we're not credited, we won't have it credited to us. So
If this passes, we would be on track to do that.
correct,
If nothing changes and all the bills fail,
right.
we keep our money.
There's a lot of, yes, so
Okay.
you're right. And then the danger is there is a lot more support, the Robin Hood thing.
Oh. That's ridiculous.
And then that's, so we're right back to almost Claremont, but not Claremont. That's the way that the current group is describing it. And we've taken we want to hire I'm calling it a lobbyist, but we're an advocate or an advocacy role in that we're trying to structure. If you read this in detail, many of us said, look, can we say that, give the flavor that we're not against education. It's just that the legislature, the state of New Hampshire has to step up, and you can't keep pushing this down. In other words, you got to come up with a funding formula that doesn't, and more clearly define an adequate education. I mean, I think they're at $12,000 to $18,000 is an adequate education.
It used to be, I don't know if it is now.
I think
And 30,000.
it was about 28,000, 28 to 29,000. And you take a look at your programs there, and if you said all you're going to get is 18 grand per student, that's not what. So they got to get an honest state look at what is adequate in 2021 or 22 or in 25. I mean, that's where the fly is in the ointment, and it's not going to be easy. I don't say it is, but So
Well, it isn't really the Robin Hood
I
thing.
just feel that for, I think, well, if it's 20, if we had 20 communities, I think it's gonna be, I forget what the like 800, 700 bucks a month or something would be 20 towns sharing the cost of this law firm who would be hired to be our lobbyist advocate or whatever. Yeah.
It'd be $700 for Lincoln every month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's we don't know the exact number because
Okay.
until everybody signs on, we won't know what the number of communities are going to start participating. And as another one comes in, the fees would start dropping, obviously, because more towns are sharing the cost. So
All right, Jane, go ahead.
How much higher are we in property values as opposed to Woodstock? How much
we're-
higher
we're-
are we?
We're at,
As far-
our latest is 1,040,000,000. Is
Okay.
what our equalized evaluation, and I believe Woodstock's is still in the 780. They're under, I don't know. I shouldn't even be saying, I didn't have,
Well, I'll look it up. I'll look it up and see.
look it up, but our property values are,
Right.
and growing every day. I mean, and growing every day. That's,
It doesn't necessarily mean that we're all wealthy, though. You know, the trouble with that Robin Hood
Well,
thing is that you have a few people with big homes. It doesn't make
therein is
make
the
our,
problem. They're basing it on property taxes.
not a,
It
Right.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You got towns like Pittsburgh and some of them towns up there are land rich, but they're land poor because it goes on property
Mhm.
taxes. And,
Mhm.
so very few property owners, but there are, so it's not a fair system. And that's what, and the legislature, I think, is sick of arguing it. And the consensus is the legislators will get just frustrated and say, fine, whatever the committee is, that's the law, that's it, and pay the bill. That's what we want to kind of push back against is, but we don't want to, and I think I actually started the conversation. I said, we do not want to become as adversarial as the Claremont thing was, because it really did get adversarial to the point where now there were a lot of hard feelings.
Yeah.
Nobody in any town, whether it's Rye or Lincoln,
Yeah.
that wants inadequate education. I mean, no. So we just lost. The group I'm very enlightened is the group that currently that's been active is like I said, about 18 to 20, all are in agreement. Like, you're right. We don't, even Portsmouth said, no, there's nobody wants to, their city council said, we want adequacy, but we're not seeing adequacy. We're not seeing statewide adequacy, and Mr. and Mrs. Legislator, you got to figure it out, not us. That's what they're, so
Yeah.
I think that is this going to be over in a few months? No, but I think we got to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I certainly think it's in our best interest to keep a watch on it. Are you planning on being part of the whatever board of directors, whatever they're calling it?
Yep. If that's what you guys want, that in this thing, the signature page is who you're designating to be that. And I think your town manager should be it. This could go on for years, okay, or several years. This is not, like I said, but I think you should be, at least somebody has a vote that has the time to watch it, and then, make split-second decisions, and then keep the current board, whatever it is, informed of what's going on. So that's,
I mean, I would be in favor of you being our representative to this coalition, but not necessarily a member of the joint, what they call the joint board, which is the 5 directors of the.
no, that's, yeah, I wouldn't get on that. And they've tried to, they're looking for volunteers, so I could have been, but they're pretty much taking a couple from the seacoast. They're trying to get a northern community but and I think they're gonna look at a Pittsburgh or a Colebrook or somebody like that and try to get a mix of communities that have different viewpoints on the five. The five still has to come back they can make, you know, in the legislative session, something that's got to be decided in 15 minutes. They can make you got to tell you, make this statement, make that statement, but anything major wise would come back to a vote of the member communities. Okay, would take a phone vote. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I see this as a tricky situation because, number one is, paying for school is either gonna be based on property tax, or if a big burden gets shifted to the state, it's either gonna be a sales tax or an income tax. There's not enough rooms and meals taxes or
You're right.
business enterprise tax that isn't gonna fund.
Oh, megabucks.
it-
Yeah.
I mean, that's already being used and,
Yeah.
so that's one thing. The second thing is, as it goes through the legislature and gets compromised, every representative is going to be representing their town and trying to make sure they're not a donor town. And once they as a group reach that, 50 or 60% of the towns are not donor towns, you're gonna have a lot more people buying in. We're probably gonna be in that smaller percentage. As the formula changes, it'll be a long way before we get into being a non-donor town under any type of formula. And my fear is that it gets compromised to the point where, okay, 60-70% of the towns become receiver towns. That puts all the burden on the 30% who are left, which Lincoln will definitely be in that barrel. So,
And I think, and so I'll tell you right front, the 20 something towns that I've been meeting with the last few weeks have conflicts as we do. You're gonna, neighboring towns that you work closely with, Woodstock, Lincoln, aren't gonna be in the same boat. So it can create a little friction there, political friction. So that's weighing heavy on towns' minds too. So trying to walk through a minefield and look, get the best deal we can for town of Lincoln, but on the other hand, it can't do it without potentially drawing in, if we win, potentially Woodstock, loses. I don't know if that's true. That's probably conjecture, but so there's a lot to think about. But I think without eyes and ears there, professional eyes and ears there, watching out for our community's interest, I think it's money well spent.
Jane?
Which, thank you. Do you know if there's any out-of-staters who have second homeowners that you can weigh in? You can't vote, but you can certainly weigh in. Is there a group of people who have second homes? I know in Pittsburgh, there's a lot of people out-of-staters who have second homes around the lakes up there. Here, there's a lot. Any of those folks weighing in on this or at some point in time, because they're the ones that are paying the bulk of it.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that, but I would hope that
Yeah, it'd
watching,
be interesting to see. It would
in
make
our
a difference,
case,
I'm
people are
sure.
watching our selectmen's meetings, and is the school board,
Yeah.
do they televise or do they tape theirs and can watch the school board
They're
meeting?
recorded. They're recorded. You can listen to them, I think, on the Kent Connection, the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
They're
And
not video.
hopefully those folks would get
It's not-
back to you folks and as
Right.
non-voters and just make their feelings known, and then or to me or to our office, and then
I think that's important.
we can pass it
Yeah.
along. I think that's because nobody, and Polly and I had the discussion here. So, I mean, you think about it, nobody wants subpar education. Nobody. It's paying for it. And then unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, on our system in New Hampshire, it's all on property taxes. And that it's just proven to be unequitable but you don't want to do something that in any way detracts from, I think the New Hampshire education system is a good one. I really do. I think there's those that have a lot more than some schools, obviously, but, I, so,
All right, we,
good.
anyone on the board want to speak for or against joining this coalition?
I think it's a good idea.
I agree.
All
So if
right,
you
then I'll make a motion that we approve of the town of Lincoln joining what's called the Coalition Communities 2.0. And that we authorize that Butch represent the town of Lincoln in that coalition.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. And the last thing I have on my list is just the assessor's letter, coming for Nita. Just to remind you that it's there and to announce to the world that people probably, if they haven't, they're gonna start getting calls for appointments on the 5th year total town reval, and yeah.
Yeah, I got it in the mail. Yeah. You have a copy. You had wanted one in the office. Do you have one now?
Yes,
Thought Jane wanted a copy.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think-
good. All right.
I believe we have it, yes.
I sent Jane a
Oh, good.
photo, scan of the letter that I got.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah, I just got it, it's in my folder, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. We should just at least put in the minutes that that's being sent out to every property owner, that this is the year we're doing the full reval. And that it's in the best interest of property owners to talk with the assessors to verify that we have accurate records of what their property consists of. And they're doing this on the phone. They're not doing in-person tours or meetings or anything like that. I've already called the number, and it's just they set an appointment of what time they're gonna call you and go over what the tax card says and just verify. So pretty simple.
Good to know.
All right. Butch, that's it for
That is it for me for today. Yep.
where do we stand with the water tank?
We should be hearing, well, it's the 1st of February. I should ask Ray. I'll ask Ray tomorrow. Weston and Sampson told us the end of January, they would have an answer on, I believe, the tank siting
Okay,
final report. And then before the end of February, they would have the second, there was a 2-phase thing. So we are now February 1st. So let me start checking in with them, with Ray and them tomorrow. Yep.
all right.
Yep.
Let's put that on the agenda for next week to just give us an update and see if there's any
Okay.
decisions or what we need to
Jane,
do to move that forward.
Jane's got that down. Yep. Okay.
All right. I think that was the only thing that I had.
I have the,
Oh, the bond. That was the other thing.
Right.
Um,
And the budget itself, don't we have to make a formal vote on the budget?
Yes, but
The budget committee has made changes
Oh, yeah.
before
yes,
hearing.
true. They were going to be
Yeah.
voting on February 2nd. The budget committee will be voting on the budget. So I would ask if you all
Oh.
can look at it and vote on it. It's 1,276 higher than the original budget that you saw.
Right, so the
Some
new
of the-
number is $9,824,950 even, correct?
that's what I have.
What,
Okay.
say that again, please?
$9,824,950.
Yes, ma'am. That's the new proposed budget by the budget committee. They chose to reduce the police. I guess they offered it up, the town manager and Chad, for 2 officers instead of 3 this year around, which I think is wonderful that they approved that. The only thing that wasn't approved that was just put into the budget was the library for a cell phone for $504 a year for a cell phone for Carol. And that was also put into this budget you're looking at. What else?
I think that was,
The mechanical gate for fire
oh.
Oh, yeah.
put into the
8,000 back
budget.
for that. Yeah,
And also it was approved for the person to be hired to work in the fire department in the maintenance and that type of thing. So that was approved. Let's see, police instead of 3 mechanical, and that's kind of where we are at. The personnel went up a little bit because of it. Obviously it would. Insurance went up a little bit because of it. And that would too. So I think that was about all the changes, unless you can think of any. Tammy, you were there.
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, do you want to make a motion to amend the Board of Selectmen's recommended budget to $9,824,950?
I'll make a motion.
And I'll
Okay, you gotta see my hand here. Sorry, I don't know.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, yeah.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. And with that, $1.6 million of that budget is a bond issue related to the water meters. John has sent us some options of how to fund that between Bank of New Hampshire and the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. There's 15, 20, and 25-year scenarios. And then there's, with the bond bank, there's scenarios where the $5,000 of bond bank fees get included in the funding. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at those.
I will right now.
the only thing I'd recommend, I don't care, I mean, obviously, it's up to you guys on which method you go. I would just say that the fees for the bank or the bond bank, I would suggest we just pay that right up front out of legal rather than spread it over 25 years. I don't know. I mean, there's 2 schools of thought, but I guess, I don't know. It's up to you. I mean, obviously, it's up to you guys, but.
Phone.
I mean, I can tell you my preference I agree with what Butch just said, but in $1.6 million, $5,000 is we don't even know how much of the 1.6 we need.
Mhm.
This is an estimate of what the quote's going to be, and it's going to be off by more than $5,000. So that's not a big deal, but I agree, paying for it up front, it's why take that amount and fund it over 20 years is not going to make a big difference. What I do think will make a difference is the interest rate at the bank is 2.1. The interest rate at the bond bank is 2.0. Not a big difference, but obviously the lower rate I think we should go for. Granted, the 2.0 has those additional fees. The Bank of New Hampshire does not. But the big difference to me is that the Bank of New Hampshire locks in the rate for 10 years. After that, it's adjustable. We are, in my lifetime, we are at about the lowest we've ever seen interest rates.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room for them to get down anymore. And the big fear at this point, with all of the trillions of dollars that we're spending on this pandemic and bailing things out is that inflation is likely to follow. You know, if I was gonna bet thousands of dollars, I would bet that the interest rate in 10 years is gonna be higher than 2.1%. I'd rather lock in the 2% for the full duration of the loan.
Yeah.
And the other thing is when you're with the bond bank, when you're with the regular bank, our payments are going to be the same every year from now until 15, 20, whatever rate term we take. If we do the bond bank, the way that works is the principal payment is the same every year. But obviously, as the principal reduces, the interest rate goes down a little bit each year. So even though our payment in year one is higher through the bond bank, our payment in year, 10, 12, 15 is going to be less than what the bank charges because there's so much less interest. And that's not a bad way to fund a project like this where it frees up money in the future by paying a set amount of principal down every year. It's a little bit front loaded, but it saves on the total interest you pay, and it's a lower rate. So it's a more economical way to do it. So I would say we go with the bond bank. And I think it's really a matter of, do we do 15 years, 20 or 20 years? I think 25 is too long.
I do too.
The meters aren't designed to last that long. They might, but they're not designed to.
They have a 20-year life expectancy.
Expectancy.
They suggest strongly that you have a 20-year replacement plan in place with the meter.
So in reality, you'd probably start replacing meters in the 15 to 20 year range. Just start a program of so many years, you just start replacing. That's
say
my guess.
18 to 20, thinking that
18 to 20,
for the
something like
most part,
that.
the last
Yep.
18 years, and some of them might go 22 years. So if
Yeah.
it takes 4 years, if we do a quarter of them a year for 4 years between 18 and 22,
Yeah.
I think then we'd be good.
Because all new, if this gets approved, all new construction from the date of the town meet or date of the install forward would have a new meter. In other words, they'd
Right.
have an up-to-date meter as part of the construction cost. So
Right.
you'd just be doing, so.
We just have to start, if this goes through, once we get them going, we'll have to start an aggressive CIP,
Right. Yeah.
schedule. for
When I gave John
replacement.
of
We're
the,
gonna
I
have to
said,
bond that again in 20 years.
right, and just so you know, when I gave John of the, she wanted to know how, what I was thinking was exactly what you guys are talking. I figured 15, 20, 25 being it, but you had the range.
So.
I thought you might want to get aggressive and do a 15-year payoff.
Well, that's what I was
20,
thinking.
20, and I think it either way works. 25 was done on purpose. I knew that was probably outside the realm.
I'm good with 15. I'm good with the bond bank. And I don't care whether we put that 5,000 feet in there or not. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it's an extra $175 the first year. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not
Huge. No.
I don't care either way. I mean,
So if we did the
we
15.
already lowered our legal budget. When we started looking at it, we took some out of our legal budget. Do we want to all this right now guarantee we're gonna take out another 5,000? We thought our legal budget was kind of lean to begin with. So
Yeah.
I'm opposed to rolling it into the bond.
And
Yeah.
OJ's right. It's pennies on
It's peanuts.
1.6 million. It's pennies. It is.
Yeah. And if the rest of you don't want to roll it in, I don't care either. That's the way I would go.
What do you think, OJ?
I like doing it on the 15-year schedule. And I think that is going to be sufficiently funded by the charges for water and sewer that we'll be collecting.
Yeah.
That'll be able to cover that. And the interest rate goes up. It goes from 2% at 15 years up to 2.5% at 20 years.
Right.
And I would just as soon stick with the lower rate
Yeah, me too.
and pay it off in 15 years.
Agreed.
Yeah, because it could be a much different world in 15 years. You don't
It
know.
will be, yeah.
So we'll go with the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. We'll go for 15 years and we'll just include the 5,000 in the bond.
Yeah, and that way for town meeting, we can publish the schedule. People can see what it's gonna cost over the
Right.
15 year note. That'll help them on their vote and there we go. Yep.
All right,
We
is that
good?
is that a motion?
So moved.
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's get that message to Jonna.
Yep.
Bond bank, 15 years, include the fees,
Yep.
and we'll get a schedule of what the payments are for each year.
Okay.
I have two quick questions, if I could, about the budget. Hate to bring us back there, but page 4 is missing. So as long as you know it's the legal and you remember what it was anyway, so we're good with that.
They didn't change the
She
legal.
sent it. Jonna sent another email with just that one. She
With the
said, I
legal?
forgot
Oh,
page
perfect.
4. Yeah, she forgot the legal in it. She sent it.
Good. Thank you, Donna. The other thing, Butch, I called Jonna today about the iPads and how many to order for the
Yeah.
planning board, because I didn't get an answer last meeting, and they said that you did, so is it?
Yeah, we
in
got,
there?
yeah, we got that today and I believe she sent it to the budget committees, the Dropbox. So you should have all that. We got a quote from Certified. Turns out we need to put, even on the iPads, we need to put our security stuff in. So we just went with them for 5 for budget committee, 3 for planning board, and the fees for each. So you guys will have, budget committee will have that for tomorrow night.
So that's all in this budget already then? Correct?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Been put in. So what's in
right.
front of you right now should have that in there. Yep.
Okay, it's too dark in here.
All right, there's no plan to buy those until after town meeting though,
No,
correct?
it's after town meeting, but
Okay, we just got a
plugged them
quote.
in. Yep.
Just want to make sure.
Okay. Oh, Circus Pro, 7. All right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Good. It's good.
All right, Tammy, did you have anything?
I didn't have anything else, no.
Jane?
No, I'm set, thank you.
All right, for non-public, we want to talk about the correspondence that's going back and forth with CRVI
Mhm.
and their affiliates, or however you want to word that.
Yep.
Let's just call it South Peak.
Yep.
Just, I know that there was both attorneys and anyway, we'll talk about that in non-public.
Yeah, we had some correspondence today that I
Yeah,
think
Yeah,
I've
I'm not sure.
updated.
I just gotta make sure the living room's clear. Hold on a minute.
well,
Okay.
I'm not, we
Not
won't do
ready
that
yet.
quite yet, but I
Okay,
did
all right.
that's the only other thing that I had on my agenda. So at this point, I'll open up for public participation. Chad, did you have anything for us?
No, we're all good.
All right. Ron, did you have anything for us?
Good. Busy, starting to get phone calls from short-term renters looking to get their inspections done. So that's a good sign.
That's good.
Good deal.
Mhm.
All right. There being none, then we can go into non-public. Do we want Ron to stay for that discussion on?
Yeah, if Ron
South Peak.
could, yes, if Ron could. Him and I, we had
All right.
I can do
correspondence
that.
today, so Ron should be in, yes.
All right, then I'll make a motion. We go to non-public with the board and the fire chief to discuss, I think it's just one issue regarding the correspondence related to the South Peak water.
Okay. I'm gonna carry you upstairs.
I will second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All right, thanks, Chad. Thank you, Jane.
Okay.
Yeah.